Thank you, Myles Rusak, from the executive director of the Burlington Sound of Music Festival, for joining us today. Myles, that's how many years is this for the Sound of Music?
Yeah, well, very well. Thank you for having me.
Sure, yeah.
Always game to chat Sound of Music. This will be there. Like, there's this ongoing debate now because we haven't had a festival for 2 years. Do we count those 2 years as festivals? I don't know, but
Good
I keep saying
question.
this is our 43rd year as the Burlington Sound of Music Festival.
Uh, okay, so you brought it up, the two missing years, let's say, that we
Yeah.
had. What can you tell us, what happened with the festival during those 2 years? Because
Yeah.
what just does everything just kind of pause, or what was the danger to the festival losing spot? Just tell us what happened during those 2 years.
Yeah, it was a very interesting 2 year. It was an interest. I mean, it was an interesting 2 years for the whole world, but it was an interesting 2 years for the music industry and just the live entertainment industry. A lot of organizations, festivals, events, major things, major live events, they all kind of a lot of them just sort of decided, you know what, we're going to hit pause, we're going to wait this thing out, and we're going to see what happens. And unfortunately, a lot of them didn't survive the pandemic. It hit them pretty hard, and it hit us pretty hard too. But we as a team decided very early on we weren't going to stop. We weren't going to let the pandemic simply force us to hit pause and see what happens. You know, we felt that we had an obligation to this community. We felt we had an obligation to local artists. So we found new and creative ways to continue to bring the sound of music to people's homes. And in 2020, we launched what we called SOM at Home. And it was kind of a digital platform to the festival. And it was interesting because I think in the start of the pandemic, people thought it was like super cool that all of a sudden we've got like Adam Gonche of Saint Asonia and 3 Days Grace, and he's in his basement playing an acoustic guitar with like pink insulation behind him because he's in the middle of renos. And it was a cool insight into artists' lives, and we got to do that with some fairly big names. And then we also, through the pandemic, we actually were able to employ over 200 local artists and give them opportunities to showcase and give them opportunities to play. But it was such a weird time. Like when we got into these live streams, we did one with Walk Off the Earth, like crazy high energy band, huge production behind them. And of course, they're our hometown heroes. And, we're at the Burlington Performing Arts Center doing this live stream, and there's no audience. So you're watching Walk Off the Earth with no audience. And so, they do one of their big high energy songs, and then it just ends. And it's dead silence in this
Right.
room. And there's like two of us working the show. And we're like, it was just such a weird feeling. But I'm very proud of what the organization was able to do. Because like I said, we employed over 200 artists at a time where they were hurting and they were struggling. And I think in general, people were hurting and people were struggling. And it was a dark, difficult time. And we found creative ways to bring music to their homes, and I'm really grateful that we did that, and it went well.
Do you think, and obviously we'll come on to the details of this year's festival, but do you think, I it's various podcasts I listen to, which kind of done by entertainers or musicians or whoever, and it really struck me that that they were hit harder than almost anything else because it's already a kind of fragile industry. Artists tend to struggle, but they were the first to shut down, and they were always going to be the last to kind of reopen back up again. Are we still seeing the effects of that? Do you think? Do you think everybody's just happy to go back to something like the Sound of Music and be in a crowded space, albeit outdoors, or do you still think the kind of performing arts are struggling to an extent to persuade people to come back to see them?
Yeah, and that is a great question. And anecdotally, I was just out at the East Coast Music Awards, where there's tons of industry people from different events and artists and festivals, and we had this conversation, and it's like a 50-50 divide. There is 50% of the industry is like, no, we are going to see record low years. People are afraid. People have been burned. No one wants to buy a ticket to anything because they're like, well, I've done this and my show's been rescheduled 7 times. So there is this school of thought that like we're going to see record lows, that people are afraid, that large crowds are still and then the other 50% are like, no, people are starved for this. They want to get back to it. They're going to spend money. They're craving concerts. And I don't know. It's funny because I was in the 50% of the, this is going to be huge. It's going to be the biggest and best. And as we get like closer and closer to the festival, I find myself getting a little bit more like, please come, everyone, please come. Like I think we're going to have a great year. I really do. I do believe that we will probably see some record numbers. Like we usually bring in about 250,000 people a year. I would love to see us just destroy that and have 350,000 people hit Burlington. I think would be really cool. But I think ticketed shows, that's where we're unique is we are a free festival. You can see all these bands for free. Aside from, we do have our paid show Live on the Lake, but I think ticketed shows are struggling. I think from what I hear and from what I see, some of like the bigger top tier names in the industry are still selling out shows, no problem. But I think there's a lot of struggle. I think that people, I don't know that it's necessarily the fear of the crowds or the fear of COVID. I think it is that people have been burned so many times now. I mean, I myself, I'm still holding tickets to a Journey concert that's been rescheduled like 4 times.
Hey, don't stop believing. Don't stop believing. It's going to happen.
It's going to happen. It has to. So yeah, I don't know. I'm hoping, I don't know. It's just sort of blind optimism, but I'm really hoping that we're going to see some record numbers. I think we're going to see some happy people. What I love though is like everybody remembers the controversy when masking came out, right? And everybody, oh my, you can't make me wear this, and other people are going, wear it, and everyone's yelling at each other, and it was heated and divisive. I do love that. I think we've got to a place now where it's like, if you don't want to wear a mask, don't wear a mask. And if you want to, wear it. And we're all just leaving each other alone. And I love that. And that's where I'm hopeful with these crowds is, if you're comfortable being there and you want to wear a mask, wear a mask. That's great. Good for you. And if you don't want to, that's okay. And so I think we've hit that level of comfort and safety that's helping these big events.
Like, okay, so let's flash forward to present day. You guys are getting ready to bring this festival back now in Burlington. Now, for those of our listeners who live in the 905 who are not from Burlington, this is like the unofficial kickoff of summer in Burlington. This is a huge festival. Can you kind of give us your perspective after 2 years bringing this thing back to life? Give us a sense of, because you guys prepped for this for roughly a year to make this thing happen. If people remember, like a year ago, we weren't quite certain we would be in this position for this to happen. So maybe just kind of give us a sense of what went on behind the scenes as we're inching closer and closer to this. Like, what's going on in your mind? How easy was this to come back, or how difficult?
It was a weird year of planning. And it was like every time we thought that we had this figured out, we're like, all right, let's do this and let's plan like a good old fashioned festival. And then, 2 days later, the rules change again. And we're like, now let's plan for a 50% capacity festival. And let's plan for a festival where everyone's in a pod. We went through every iteration of planning this thing. And it was funny too. Like, obviously every country handled the pandemic differently. And given the size of Sound of Music, we work with artists and agents and managers all around the world. And, I can remember like a year ago phoning an agent in the States, and I'm like, yeah, I want to put an offer on this band. And there's this sort of pause followed by the agent going, are you sure? Really? And you could see this, you could hear the agent like shuffling papers, like, oh my God, it's an offer. I don't remember what to do with these. Like it was, and it has been a very strange year, and it has been a strange year of navigating all of this. And even as we book artists, like these extra steps that we have to put into place, and, making sure that, can they cross the border and what do they need to do? And like, there's been a ton more planning that's gone into it. And then, yeah, like doing the buying and the programming, we were trying to decide like what is the festival that we want to come back to. And I told everybody, I was like, we need a party. We need a fun time. And that's why this year it's a heavier festival than we normally program. I mean, we've got Blackstone Cherry out there, Skid Row, Finger 11, like we've got a heavier program. But that was quite intentional. Like we wanted this just a heavy, fun, loud music, have a couple of drinks, let's have a great time. And that's when you look across the board of what we've programmed this year, it is a lot of high energy acts. It's a lot of, even on the Father's Day Sunday, like I always kind of felt like the Sound of Music, like we didn't end on a high note. We ended on it was fun and people enjoyed it, but it's Father's Day. And we were like, no, let's get some big names out to have a great wrap up day. So, I mean, we've got like the Tea Party, the Washboard Union. We've got this one guy coming out from the East Coast named Gordy McKeeman and his Rhythm Boys. And I kid you not, I have never seen a group as high energy as Gordy. He is a fiddle player and a singer, and he tap dances all at the same time while his band is doing their thing. And the guy with the big double bass, Gordy will climb on top of the double bass while playing the fiddle and singing, and then he'll tap dance on top of the double bass. And if you think I'm making this up, come on out on Father's Day and see it for yourself. So yeah, but planning was very interesting. Like, and even though like all the restrictions are gone, we still have taken our own precautions. Like we're making sure that all of our sanitization efforts are doubled. We're making sure that there's extra hand washing stations, and we're making sure that there's proper protocols for the artists. We're keeping, non-essential people out of the backstage area. Like we're trying to do everything we can to make sure that artists and guests and staff and volunteers and everyone are as safely protected as they can. So, but yeah, it has been probably one of the weirdest years in my career, especially on the buying side. Like, but it all worked out. It'll be okay.
Sound of Music is it's unusual in some ways. I mean, I'm trying to think of the sort of festivals I used to go to when I was a kid, and obviously, you tell from my accent, I didn't grow up in Canada. It tended to be in fields for very good reasons, because they're loud and they're and there's a danger of annoying people. Being right in the center of town, it's an amazing kind of different thing for a festival, isn't it? I mean, I guess it grew out of the Sound of Music's roots as a more kind of small town thing, but over the years it's developed into this really Canadian, certainly known across Canada festival. Do you think that are there things that make the Sound of Music kind of unique that give it a different feel, if you like, to other festivals?
Yeah, I think there definitely is. And it's funny where you mentioned like they're in a big field because they annoy people. Oh, we annoy people. Don't you kid yourself.
Well, I was subtly not going there. But
yeah.
It's like, that, year. I know that. We won't go there.
Oh, every year. My favorite are the complaints that we get from people that have just moved to town, and they'll phone and complain, and they often call City Hall. They think that we're a city event, and we're not. We're an independent nonprofit. But they'll call City Hall and do you know this is going on? I looked off my balcony and there is loud music taking place. And it's like, well, maybe when you're going to buy a condo next to the park, you should have looked into what's been happening here for 40 years. But no, we, yeah, it is a very unique vibe. It's cool though, because so much of downtown Burlington embraces the festival that it's like it takes on like Burlington takes on new life during the festival time. And I mean, even we do sprawl out of the park. We have our Street Fest. We have our carnival, our midway. But Street Fest, we close off one of downtown's like most busiest streets, and we set all that up. And City Hall is involved. We have another stage up there, and retailers get involved. And it's cool because we actually are we are Canada's largest free outdoor music festival. The fact that we're free puts a whole different vibe on the event because it makes it accessible. Like you look at some of these bands that are playing, like the Trews, like you're going to pay $50 for a Trews ticket, but now you can just walk into the park and see it. So it's like the great equalizer. Like, it doesn't matter your position or your situation or your economic resources. You can just come and enjoy great music. And if you don't want to spend a penny, you don't have to. And I think that brings so much more to this festival. And it also, you know, like we try to be like, I've been saying this tagline of like, we are more than just a festival. And that was a big shift for us this year as well, is thinking about things like our street fest. You know, we used to have like 6 music pods, and every time you turned your head, it was just music, music, music. And we actually realized that we're doing ourselves a disservice by having street fest so musically driven, because it almost got overwhelming. So this year, like, we wanted to make it all about experience and engagement and families and fun. So, you know, street fest, instead of 5 music pods, we have 1 music pod, and it's going to be with the Hamilton Music Collective and our music ed program. And they're going to be doing some really fun things and interactive and engaging. Come touch an instrument and learn something and play something. But then on the street, we've got like fire jugglers and magicians and cosplayers and cool photo ops, and we have a circus coming. Like, we're really trying to be more than just a music festival. And I view Street Fest as like, my vision is it's going to be this really cool hallway. And by the time you've gone through the hallway and you get to the festival and you're like, we haven't even done this yet, and that was awesome. Like, it. So yeah, and it's all free. And I think that that's the vibe that really sets us apart.
You touched on a lot of things there, and you know, I grew up in Burlington. Sound of Music is kind of like a rite of, again, it's the rite of summer, right? It's just like everyone in Burlington just knows summer doesn't begin. No, it's not the May 2-4. It's the Sound of Music Festival is the start of summer. It's just the law. I'm trying to convey to people who, listeners of our podcast, who are not from Burlington and not necessarily from this end of the 905, who aren't that familiar with Sound of Music. Like, I'm trying to convey to people, like, this isn't like some rinky-dink, you know, quaint small town festival. Like, this is, in my opinion, this is on par with like a Lollapalooza. You know, it's, yeah, as you said, like, you know, 150, 200,000 people in the downtown of Burlington at once listening to music. Like, it's kind of hard to wrap your head around if you're not from the area. Like, it's just something we kind of take for granted.
Yeah.
But I was thinking, I'm jumping over your answer there. But yeah, one of the interesting things is, if you live in Burlington, you know, for that weekend, or almost for the weeks around then, you're going to the festival even if you're not going to the festival, because you walk through it, you experience it, and I think as a result, it is very well loved in Burlington as a whole. I think. I mean, that there are obviously those. I mean, I used to live in one of the downtown apartment blocks, and it was like, hey, we can go to the festival. All we have to do is go on the balcony. It's fantastic. You know, we'd have friends around, and you know, but it is a kind of. I think the fact that you don't, it's an experience through the town is one of the aspects of it that's growing and becoming really kind of interesting.
Yeah, and I mean, like, we have 3 main stages. We have a carnival, a midway, hundreds of vendors, a family zone, a parade, a street festival. I'm sure I've missed things in there, but like, it is everything. And it's so funny because, you know, like, people, I love Burlington so much. As you say, it's like the first mark of summer, and you always see pictures in springtime, and people are like, oh, spring is here, and they'll post a picture of like a little tulip popping up or a robin, and then all of a sudden on like Burlington groups and stuff, you'll start to see summer's here, and someone's taking a picture of like our street pole banner that's been put up. And like, it's so true. And when like we build this big archway over the entrance, and as soon as that goes up, people lose their minds. Like, we get so many phone calls and so many emails and so many messages that are just like, so excited, Sound of Music's coming. And like, they just message us this. And I'm like, yeah, it is. And it is. It's 250,000 people in downtown Burlington. And what's cool is like, yeah, the festival has a ton to offer, everything from the food trucks to the stages and all of that. But also like the retailers get involved, and you're going to start to see the local retailers are like bringing their stores up to the streets, and they're setting up on sidewalks, and they're doing unique activations and new things. And like, it is really cool to see the whole town just embrace what's happening on their doorstep.
I want to go back a second to some of the the acts that you have lined up to play. Because you mentioned like Finger Love and the Trews, amongst others. As you're interacting with them, or their management, I guess I should say, can you kind of tell like what their attitude towards something like this would be? Because I'm picturing in my head, I'm just picturing 2 years of kind of like this pent up frustration of like, we want to get out, we want to play, people want to hear music, we want to, you want to party, and we haven't really for 2 years. And it's almost like you're facing a tidal wave of just this kind of pent up energy from both audience and musicians. And I'm wondering, like, what's the attitude of the acts that are signed up to play?
Yeah, they are. So many of them are crazy excited. And we have quite a few American bands coming in this year, and I'm going to tell this one story. I love stories, so I like telling them. The Unlikely Candidates is a band that we have coming in from the States, and the States, they're still like, even today, COVID, it's still like, it's on the rise again. People are getting a little anxious about it, and so I think the American bands are so excited to come play. And we had this one, the Unlikely Candidates, and like the bass player called me directly, and he was like, "Hey man, we're doing it. We're coming. This is gonna be our first gig in Canada. We're so excited about it." And he's like, "You asked us if we would do this meet and greet. We love our fans. Like, I don't know if we're comfortable. I don't know if we can do it." And I was like, "Hey man, that's totally cool. It's all right. Not a problem. Just come and have a great time." And he's like, "Are you serious?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's okay." And he's like, "Man, our manager said that like Canadians are amazing. Like, he told us that." And I was like, I don't know. I'm going to call this guy myself, because if he's going to yell at anyone, it'll be at me. I'm like, "Why would I yell at you? It's totally cool, man." And he's like, "We're just so excited." And like the Trews, talking to the Trews, like, they are so excited. And I'm looking at our list here, like Biff Naked. I was talking to her not too terribly long ago, and it blew my mind that Biff Naked has never played this festival. I don't understand how that happened.
Yeah, what happened?
I don't know.
She's like an icon from my youth, and I'm like, I could have sworn she played at some point, but you're right, I guess not.
And this was actually an important thing when I was programming this year. Is I wanted, there was a couple of outcomes. I said, like, we wanted to have that party, but I wanted to program a festival that we haven't seen yet, and not just the Sound of Music, but any festival. So, oftentimes you'll find bands that are routing through, and we'll get a call that, "Oh, hey, Biff Naked's going to play everywhere and would like to play there too." And I stayed away from a lot of those, because I really wanted a unique festival this year that are bands that we have handpicked and are not just playing. You're not going to be able to go see them the following weekend at the next festival. And so, yeah, and looking back, like, at who had played, that was the other thing, is we wanted to make sure we were bringing in new bands. So I think of our entire festival lineup, we only have like 3 or 4 bands that have ever played here before. And so you're going to get this brand new experience. But that was it. I'm looking through our past acts, and I'm like, how have we never had Biff Naked? And it's funny talking to her, because her real name's Beth, but she doesn't go by that. I'm like, do I call you like Miss Naked? Like, I don't know what to do here. It's like, are you Biff? Like, I don't know what to call you. But yeah, no, so like, yeah, looking at our stages, Thursday night, Blackstone, The Warning are these 3 incredible young women from Mexico. They're like one of the hottest rock bands in Mexico. And they did a cover, I think it was about 2 years ago, maybe 3, of a Metallica song. And they did Enter Sandman, but they did it all kind of low and creepy and cool. And they just exploded. And now, we've got a band coming in from Mexico. We've never done that before. The Trews and Wide Mouth Mason. Wide Mouth Mason's another one that, you think of the 90s and the 2000s and that Wide Mouth Mason. But their newest album came out, I want to say maybe 3 years ago. I was talking to Safwan Yavid, their drummer, and I was like, "So did you just take Sean, the guitar player, and like lock him in a closet for 8 years with a slide guitar and say, 'We'll let you out when you're really good at it'?" And he's like, "Pretty much," because there was an 8-year gap between albums. Then they put out this amazing album a couple of years ago that it's like listening to a cool blues rock jam band, and the slide guitar on it is just incredible. You know,
It takes
Econoline
8 years
Crush.
to learn, apparently.
Yeah, right? Like
I've tried. It's like it looks so easy, and it's
a nightmare. That was me with banjo. I was like, yeah, I played guitar for 20 years. I can play banjo. How hard is that? And then I got one and went, oh, this thing's really hard to play. And I hate it. And it's going to go in the closet. And I'll never use it again. But yeah, you know, the Trews and Wide Mouth Mason, Econoline Crush, Finger 11, Biff Naked, the Blue Stones, Susie McNeil, the Tea Party, Ben Kaplan, High Valley. Like, I can just go on. Fantastic Negrito is coming in from the States. He has just exploded. He's touring all of the United States. Somehow, I don't even know how we got this lucky. We will be his only Canadian stop on the tour. And if you want to listen to some incredibly cool, soulful rock, Negrito is just amazing. And we will be his only Canadian stop. And Skid Row, I mean, who doesn't want to see Skid Row? I just want them to play 18 in Life for like 75 minutes. Like, if they could just do that on a loop. Honeymoon Suite, our country stages, that was a big shift for us as well. We used to do Friday and Saturday as country, and then Sunday, our West stage would be either a little bit lighter, or we would actually just go dark. And we were like, no, let's keep this thing going. So, you know, we're going to close off over there with the Washboard Union and Emily Reed. Like, we've got a huge Sunday planned. We've got the Pursuit of Happiness coming. Like, I think we're going to have just a really fun festival this year. And I just think it's going to hit a home run. I really do.
If you're, I have two final questions. I'll start off with like the kind of the good promo question. So if we have a listener right now listening to this podcast, we're about 2 weeks out from the festival. How do they go to it? How do they visit the Sound of Music Festival? What should they do?
Easiest thing to do is go to soundofmusic.ca. All the schedules are there. I'll put in my little plug, because we are a free festival. If you don't want to buy a ticket, you don't have to. It's just show up. There's no gate. There's no scan. Just come. Just have a good time. But we do have VIP experiences available, where, you know, those are a ticketed buy, and you get to go into the VIP lounge and have a covered space and a raised viewing platform and better washrooms. Everyone loves that, because who loves the little plastic box that you have to do your business in? So, you know, it's a great upgraded experience. We have front row experiences that you could buy. If you love Biff Naked and you want to be 3 feet away from the stage, you can get into the front row. But yeah, head to soundofmusic.ca. One thing we're doing this year, because I will warn everybody, downtown Burlington parking during Sound of Music is a nightmare. Like, it is an absolute disaster. This year we have partnered with the Burlington Center, the shopping mall. You can park there for free. They have a massive parking lot. We will have 3 buses running on a constant rotation from that parking lot. They will take you for free to the front main gate, and they'll take you back to your vehicle later. And they'll be running, like, the festival in general, every day. It's usually about 1 o'clock until 11 p.m. ish, but check the schedules, because they do change. And yeah, we'll have that shuttle running for free from Burlington Center.
I know you have the shuttle, but I would also just point out that if you want to come in on the GO train, you can get off at Burlington Station, pay Burlington Transit, but there are buses that go into the downtown from the GO station. So if you're looking for a more, I guess, greener option to come down, that is there as well. My final question that I have for you, Myles, as we're coming near the end, is what is the future of the Burlington Sound of Music Festival? You know, maybe lessons to learn from the pandemic you're implementing now, and things that you might want to, lessons that you say, hey, you know what, let's carry this on into the future for the festival.
I love that question. I could answer that question for like hours, because I've been
two-part episode.
Yeah, right. Oh, I've been with this organization for about 5 years now, and you know, I'm not a status quo person. I will never look at this festival and just say, you know what, we've hit it, we're good enough, done and dusted, hang our hats, and let's just do the same thing every year. I am all about, how do we grow? How do we expand? What can we become? And you know, I keep introducing this tagline of more than a festival. And you know, I think going forward for the festival specifically, like we are starting to embrace new technologies, and we're looking into ways that we can live stream parts of the festival. So if you don't want to come and be a part of it, or if you live somewhere else, you can still experience the excitement and the energy that we're creating. But as an organization, I think that we are respected in North America as one of the top festivals. And, you know, there is not an agent or manager or artist out there who doesn't know what this festival is. And I think we can use that to help emerging artists in our community become more and really like launch their careers. There's some amazing work being done on the East Coast of Canada by what they call the MIAs, the Music Industry Associations, all about export buying, where they bring in people like me who buy festivals and they showcase local artists, and they help give those artists resources so that, you know, because if we find an artist that we love on the East Coast who's just starting out, like I'm going to offer them enough money that won't even pay for the gas to get out here. But it's just, that's what you have to do. So these organizations exist to help those artists be prepared to get out there, help those artists get in front of managers and agents and propel their career. And I see the Sound of Music as something that could be that. We could be so much more. We could be, and this is like my dream, is to be the hub of music in Ontario. And it doesn't mean that we have to own it all or control it all, but even just to be that resource to artists and to the industry. I just think there's so much potential for what we can do to help the arts. And I'm just really excited. We've got a great board of directors, a great staff team, and a great volunteer team. And like everyone shares in this vision of just doing what we do well and being so much more than it. So we'll see what the future holds, but it's going to be fun.
And I mean, we'll wrap it up there, but you know, that's such a positive thing that maybe we can have you back on in the future to talk about that. And, you know, with so many venues closing because of COVID and things like this, you know, it's a really important time for kind of innovation in the arts, I think. And yeah, I mean, one of the things that occurred to me was that, you know, the really early days of COVID were for lazy people like me who work at home and don't go very far very often. It was like, oh wow, Ben Folds is on YouTube doing like a weekly thing, or you know, some other act is you know, it made it music more accessible to me in some ways. And it's like, yeah, can we find a way to carry that on while getting back live and on the stages and everything? But thanks so much, Myles, for talking to us today. It's been, I mean, after all the lovely election talk of the last month or so, it's been a shot in the arm to talk about something that is just fun. And
well, yeah. Politics aren't fun. What?
Yeah. Why we do this, I don't know. We should just become an arts program and just skip the politics.
But you know what, folks, if you're a dad and you're looking to introduce your kids to some good music, take them down to Father's Day weekend. If you're a kid and you're looking to introduce your dad to some good music, take them down Father's Day weekend. Yes. Definitely check it out if you're in the region. And if you know, you know. So thank you very much, Myles, for telling us everything about the Sound of Music. And if I'm walking through the crowd this weekend, because I know I'm definitely going to be down for a few of the acts. Just throw something at my head and try and get my attention. I'll come over and say hi.
Awesome. Joel and Roland, thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.